Hello all, welcome to Tip Top C Sharp tutorial series. Today we will have a look at most basic generic collection type, that is list. We have already covered arrays, generic, array list in the previous videos. We would recommend you to go through those videos once. I will have those links mentioned in the description section below. Let's try to understand list in detail. The agenda for today will be, first we'll understand basics of the list, then we'll have some hands-on. Then we'll try to understand multiple operation and complexity associated with those. Moving on. List is a generic collection. You can imagine list as a dynamic array. Size of the list increases as you keep on adding elements. And list is also a collection of same type of elements. Specifying size of the list at the time of initialization is optional because the size will increase however as you keep on adding elements. Elements can also be accessed using index, like my first list as you do it in case of array. Index of the list starts from 0. Last element will be count minus 1. Remember that in case of array, it will be length minus 1. To understand more, let's flip to Visual Studio. For ease of understanding, I have already created a project. So let's try to create an list. So I can create list of integer, then my int list, and I can either create without specifying any size, or I can create another list of string. So list provides both advantages here. Either you can specify it, either you can initialize it without specifying the size, or you can initialize it by specifying the initial size, how much you want it to be. But remember that list is also a type safe where you can add elements of same type. So let's try to add some elements like my int list add, that is 1. If I try to add string, it will throw an error like 1 2 3. But in string I can add a string. So list brings up both advantage of array as well as array list, where the size can increase dynamically and is also type safe. To loop through an list, you can use either for, where you use typical I equals 0, I is less than count, and you can iterate through each thing using index like this, where I want to write, or I can use another way, that is for each. Like I want to access my second one, so here you can see that for list either I can go for loop where I access each of the elements using index, or I can go through for each loop where I don't care about index but I want to loop through each of the elements. So let's try to understand Dynamic behavior of the list. When you declare a list like this, the initial capacity and size will be 0. But as soon as you add first element, the capacity will be 4 and size will be 1. So let's try to, I will just remove these two loops. So for integer, we'll try to understand. So dot capacity. So count. So we'll try to understand how this works. I have created an integer. I'll get rid of this string list for now. Yeah. So you can see that I have created my integer list without specifying any size. And I'm trying to get the capacity and count, and I'm printing same. I have added one element and then I'm trying to print capacity and count again. Let's execute this one. But as soon as I add the item, first item, the capacity will be 4 and count will be 1. The capacity will not increase until the count reaches the maximum. Okay, let's not confuse it. So with continuing with my previous example, as soon as the first item is added in the list, internal array size of 4 is initialized. So at this point of time, list does not have any array declared. But as soon as the first item is added, by default, array of size 4 is declared. That's why the capacity shows as 4. But count shows the number of items that have been added. So the count is 1. So, but let's try to add another item. I will add 2 this time, and now the count will increase because number of elements that have added has increased. But capacity will not increase because count or my internal array can still hold many number of elements. So if I execute, you can see that the capacity remains same 4 4, but count will increase. As soon as we add, so as the capacity is 4, as soon as we add fifth element, the capacity of the list will be doubled. So let's try to add some items. So we'll have a for loop. So we'll add so we are adding 5 items. So let's see what happens. After execution of this loop, the capacity should be 8. Yeah, now you can see that as my count has increased, my capacity is also doubled. So That's how internally it is managed. So as soon as you add fifth item, all the old array values will be copied into new array with the size of double, and new item is copied into the same. Apart from this one, list also provides multiple operations. Either it can be adding an object can be type here, or it can be list, or if you want to insert at specific index, like I want to insert at 5th, 6th, 7th, so, or it can be clear where you want to clear everything. It can also be contains where you want to see whether an object is exist. Either it can be remove where you want to remove a specified object, or you want to remove an index, or you want to get index of specified object. Let's try to understand complexity on the other side. Adding an object when you are not exceeding size, the complexity will be big of 1. But if you add an object after exceeding the capacity, internally it has to CLR will create a new array and then copy all the old element into new elements, new array, and then has to add new. That's why the complexity will increase here. So be careful while using a list when you are having thousands of record, because it will internally increase the array. So in that case, better to give an initial size where you expect the minimum size will be 100, 200, 1000. If for minor things like 10, 20, it is okay. Yeah, for accessing using index is also a big O of 1. Yeah. All the other things, these are the additional options provided on top of array. So whenever you need to select a data structure type for your application algorithm or any other thing, you need to be very careful, or you need to understand this table before using it. That's what I hope completes the list. Let me know if I have missed out anything. Thank you.